سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم والرب زدني علما. So continuing after a bit of a discontinuation, so we're continuing with the ilaj, or we could say the how to correct our inner qualities from the animalistic qualities of the overcoming of desires and passions and animalistic tendencies, and replace them with angelic and prophetic tendencies and characteristics. And we talked earlier about jealousy, envy, and the like. And it's been mentioned from time to time that whatever the specific elements that create jealousy, envy, anger, animosity, kibr, arrogance, conceit, pride, all of these kind of things. Basically, it all boils down to love of the world. If we think about it, what does it boil down? It boils down to the love of the world and the things connected to this worldly life. I want to be somebody. I want to have something, right? That's basically what it boils down. So actually, it's the love of the world and the worldly that really, generates these negative characteristics and negative passions and desires. So that being the case, so if we were to be able to curtail our love of the world and understand it for what it was, then that's probably 90% of the of the whole issue. If we can do that, easier said than done, because we're born in the world and we see the world and we hear the world. We're being educated about the world from day one, and throughout, and then everybody's from the very beginning of the education process that we have now, because again, we live in a time where the unseen has been totally neglected and forgotten. Starting with the creator of the unseen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, and everything else that's unseen. And everything is, the world. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا هُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. They know things of the seen world, but of the hereafter they are in total negligence. And so that's the environment that we live in. And the education process, from the very beginning, and then the whole sort of vision and perception of people everywhere now is, how do I succeed in my worldly career? And you don't even say worldly, because career and being successful means in the world. It's not like this world or the next world. The next world, it's totally out of the mind and heart. Even for those of us who are Muslims, because of the overwhelming influence of the environment, it's almost as though, the hereafter, there's death and there's after death, but we really don't have a focus on that. We have a focus on our job. We have a focus on, money. We have a focus on our bank account. These are the things, because this is what is in our hearts. This is what's in our minds. We have to reverse this process if we really want to have sustainable gains in character building and suluk. And that's why they say that حُبَّ الدُّنْيَا رَأْسُ كُلِّ خَطِيئَةٍ. The love of the world is the basis of all wrong action, wrong activity, all sins, all transgressions. And if you really analyze it, it all boils down to that. So therefore, you'll find the Quran again and again, and Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam again and again, and Sahaba and our pious ancestors again and again. They keep warning us, and informing us that what is the reality of the world, and we need to hear about that and consider and ponder over it again and again. So in that connection, first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so many places in the Holy Quran mentions Allahu Akbar. What are the faults and the deficiencies of the world, and encourages us, the Quran itself encourages us to give it little importance and give importance to what really is important, which is the hereafter. And therefore, many examples have also been mentioned, to make it sort of, to bring it home to us, to bring it towards our perception. So among that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب. An amazing ayat, and of course we talked about this to somewhat of detail in tafsir in Surah Al-Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here mentions zuyina. Zuyina is what we call the mabni lil-majhul. In other words, it has been made beautiful. It has been made in something that human beings adorn. And who made it like that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made what? So, but it's interesting, the Quran first makes this statement that there are things which have been made beautiful, they have been placed in our hearts and in our perception. That is how we've been engineered, that they seem to be beautiful. There's something that we adore, there's something that we love. And what are those? Hubb shahawat, the love of fulfilling of desires and pleasures. Everybody loves that. Everybody likes to, fulfill his desires, fulfill his pleasures, be pleasant, right? From among what? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a detail, the various desires. And the number one, min an-nisa, from women, wal baneen, children, particularly the male children, the sons, وَالْقَنَاطِرِ الْمُقَنْطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ, and mounds and piles up mounds of gold and silver, or dollars, or crypto, or whatever the case may be, whatever people, use as currencies. وَالذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَيْلِ الْمُسَوَّمَةِ, and the horses which are branded. Now, horses, of course, in Arabia, and not only in Arabia, but all over the world, before we had cars, Mercedes and BMWs and Lamborghinis and the like. So people had, horses were taking that. So you can imagine how much, the fellow riding down the street with his new Lamborghini, how he thinks he's really something, right? Well, actually, the Lamborghini is something, but the person riding it has not changed at all. Whether he's riding a Lamborghini or he's riding a donkey, he's still the same human being. But that's the way people think, So, similarly, in the old days, it was horses, and a very costly horse and a very, very, noble. And in fact, even the horses, they used to have them. They used to have the nobility and the lineage of the horses still. That this is the horse whose father was so and so and great, and they have a whole lineage of these great horses, and it goes down, hundreds of years, right? So, and musawwam basically means branded. Now, why is that significant? Because if it's just a horse, it's anybody's horse, or it's any horse, so that's beautiful, and of course people would love to look at that, and still, the horse is just an amazing thing. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the horses, particularly the horses which are prepared for jihad fi sabilillah. They're just amazing creatures. However, if that creature has my brand on it, then what does it mean? It's mine. So these are my horses, And so this is one of the things that has been beautified in the hearts of people. Love of the women, the children, the mounds and piles of gold and silver, and these mounts, these horses which are branded, which signify that they're mine. وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ, and an'am, and other types of cattle and other types of merchandise. And it can be actually, you can from an analogy, you can just say any type of wealth that we have all piled up and stored up, of course, it falls into that category. Well, harth, and harth, agricultural lands and all that comes out of that, and just even looking and seeing that I have so much of lands and it's producing so much produce for me. Well, harth, ذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ, and that, and all of that, all of those things mentioned It's just hayat, mata'ul hayat dunya. It's a these are commodities which give us some facility in the hayat dunya, in the worldly life, which we're going to be looking at very carefully. That what is the worldly life? How long is it? How significant is it? And all of these things, if we have all of these things to our heart's desire, which nobody is able to do that, then what ultimately will it give us? A little facility in this worldly life, which is a few moments, as we'll see. And if we analyze the situation, it's a very short time indeed. Mata'ul hayat dunya, wallahu indahu, and Allah with Him is husnul ma'ab, is the best of ultimate destinations and turning points. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala carries on, قُلْ أَوْنَبِّكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ, should I not inform you of something which is much better than that? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions something much better. Moreover, many things much better than that. Pure, chaste, if people love the women of this world, then the women of the next world are purer and more chaste and more beautiful and more pleasurable and forever and ever and ever, starting from their wives and all other women that they will be having over there. It's much better for them. And abodes which are forever and ever, which no eye has seen the like thereof and no ear has heard the like thereof and nobody could even imagine. And best of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, upon which all types of wonderful things which will be continuously forever and ever, coming the way of that lucky individual who achieves that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, these things. He's telling us, but we say, yes, but dunya, it's very important. Well, it is very important, but not for the things that we think so. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the example, وَمَا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ, and not is the worldly life except mata'ul ghurur, a facility or chattels of deception. Much like the mirage that the thirsty person sees on the horizon, it looks life-giving. It looks like, it's the answer to my quest, the answer to my dreams, And then when he finally reaches that mirage, then what does he find? Hot sand. Nothing. Similarly, at the end of the world, the end of our life, all of those aspirations and all of those long-term visioneering that we had for 50, 60, 100 years, that we were going to achieve such and such and such and such, at the point of death and entering into the grave, just as the sleeping person awakes and finds it was all dreams with no reality whatsoever. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. And here in Surah Yunus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the example of the worldly life is like water that we sent down from the sky. فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ. And as this water connects with the earth and mixes with the earth, mixes with the vegetation on the earth, then it turns into luscious vegetation, green fruits, vegetation, different types of benefits, and then after a very short time, it dries, it withers, it turns brown, then it crumbles, then it turns into dust, tadruhu riyah, and it's blown and scattered by the wind. Not a single vestige is left there. So similarly is the life of this world. Everything's, the nations, the civilizations that came and went, the Romans, the Greeks, the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Indians and ancient Chinese and the ancient civilizations that lived here in Americas, North America, Central America, South America, where are they? And so we think United States of America, we're here forever. Well, everyone who came before, they also thought the same thing. Pharaoh thought the same thing, Qarun thought the same thing, the Romans thought the same, the Greeks thought the same thing, and where are they today? They all disappeared, and you won't see a single remnants thereof. So similarly, just as this vegetation, it looks beautiful for a moment, and then it's scattered into the dust and scattered into the wind, not a vestige. So similarly, the life of this world is also going to dissipate, not a vestige will remain. Allahu Akbar. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ وَزِينَةٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hadid mentions, know, وَاعْلَمُوا. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْلَمُوا, know this is worth knowing. Now what we think is worth knowing, engineering, medicine, politics, political science, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mention in the Quran, يَعْلَمُوا these things. He mentioned, يَعْلَمُوا this, know this, that the worldly life is just a play. It's a pastime, a sport, right? And a lahu. La'ab and lahu, a sport, a play, a pastime. Wazinatun. And a beautification, as we mentioned earlier, something beautiful that looks luscious and it's about to leave. And it goes on continuing, and so many ayats go on continuing talking about, and this type of mithal is not mentioned once in the Quran, but again and again and again to remind us that what is the reality of this world? The reality of this world is just as that vegetation which came, was green, became yellow, it was powdered and pulverized and spread into nothingness. So similarly is the life of this world. However, what we did in the life of this world, this is what is going to remain, and this is what we have to focus on. Inshallah, we'll talk about this in our next encounter, inshallah ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Let us reflect on this, Reflect on this. What is the worldly life? Reflect on this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the basira, the sight of the heart, that we can see the world for what it is and act appropriately. Ameen thumma ameen wa akhir da'wana. And alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanaka wa bihamdika. Nashhadu la ilaha illa anta